Hey, everybody. It's January 23rd, 2021. Wild, crazy, unusual, and unexpected times going on around the world, here in the U.S., and at our nation's capital. January 23, 2021. You've tuned into Cyberhuman Frontiers here with me and TMC. And following up a little bit on last week, we got a number of subjects. We're going to work at tying them all together. And it has to do with surveillance. It has to do with current events. It has to do with what some of the technology can do, both from the visual graphic arts Hollywood standpoint, as well as from more of the even almost the military side of surveillance technology, weaponizing it, and uses that there are probably on the part of some of the big tech companies and Google, Facebook, etc., and some others of an international nature, like China. So before we get started, TMC, how are you anyway today? You doing good? How's things?
Yeah, doing great.
Ooh, I got to turn your volume up. Oh, it's me. My monitor was down. I think your voice level's fine, so I'm just going to go ahead. Yeah, I can hear you. All right. So before we get started, we just want to go through and do our disclaimer, community guidelines. And so we're going to play that game. Shall we play a game? The points of view and purpose of this video is not to incite fear or violence or harass or bully in any way, but rather to share opinions and thoughts with other like-minded individuals curious about the subject, to encourage conversation and awareness. The opinions expressed on this stream belong solely to the person espousing them, not an expression of the channel Cyberhuman Frontiers. This video does not claim to give medical, legal, political, or financial advice. This video and our YouTube channel in general may contain certain copyrighted works, and tonight we will, that were not specifically authorized to be used by the copyright holder, but which we believe in good faith are protected by federal law and the fair use doctrine for one or more of the reasons noted above in the Copyright Act of 1976. So with that as a preface, thank you for your patience as I read through that. Let's just say, quote unquote, tonight's discussion is for entertainment purposes only, if you're curious. So here we go. We are increasingly living in a world of more and more advanced technology. The title of our show tonight, Eyes and Ears Everywhere, World Surveillance, Security at the U.S. Capitol, and other events that we saw transpire over the intervening week. Between last week and this week, we have had an inauguration, one of the most unusual lead-ups and, I don't know, conditions surrounding an inauguration that I can possibly ever remember in my entire life, and questions remaining as to exactly what in the world is going on there. We don't know. We certainly are willing to embrace and accept reality at all times. We have to, and we want to arm ourselves with knowledge about what is in that world of reality around us. So that's, that keeps a lot of us thinking and trying to figure out and connect the dots. And a lot of people have been doing that. And if somebody watches this show in the future, be advised, this is not going to be the content of the entire show, because this information will become dated if you happen to watch it a month down the road or 2 months. But yes, we are going to cover a little bit of that. I'll start off with one or two interesting clips. And I have a little bit that I'd like to get us into about cybersecurity at a personal level. What do you get when you use a VPN? What is happening when you literally point and click on anything on the internet? What is happening with that data? It's tagged to you, to your name or your profile or your identity somewhere out there in some big server farm that is it's got an expanding folder about you. And it's probably a whole lot more than just one of them. So what's really happening there? And we might get into, a little bit of discussion about our personal data, and that it does belong to us, and that it does have value. And if it is taken or utilized for any reason, shouldn't somebody have paid us for it? It was ours. It's us. It's essentially one version of our own intellectual property. And I guess the explanation would be we get services in return for that. But do we feel that we're receiving adequate compensation for all that data that's collected about us?
I've got to interject.
Yes.
Beyond monetizing it, do I really have the option of opting out? I mean, the real basis of
it's
this
hard.
idea of this information being available is whether or not it's constitutional in the first place to collect it.
Right.
And that's right. If that's not established, then there is no right to monetize it because it's being taken. There is no rules to say otherwise.
How much of that is covered by clicking the little accept button at the end of the terms and conditions? I mean, they've told you.
It's entrapment to some extent. It's forced compliance because you're not going to be able to use the service that has been thrust into our faces, into the world, that then now has become a centerpiece for commerce, for exchange of ideas, for communication. So if you're not on the platform, you're limiting and restricting your ability to function in a quote unquote free society.
Some of which functions you're going to need. Otherwise, it's going to affect you in your pocketbook, even perhaps.
Mm-hmm. And the more we move to a digital currency and a digital presence and remote this and deliver that and, stay away from people and all this stuff, it's going to further force compliance.
You know what's going on, TMC? You get the feeling we are being corralled, okay? We're being cornered. We're being pushed little by little, 1 millimeter, centimeter, maybe even at a time, into a place by others, just by the mechanism that you said. If you don't acquiesce to those terms of use, then you lose something. So one little thing and then another little thing. And I'm getting this feeling that in many different ways, our thoughts are being influenced, our priorities are being controlled, and we are being on multiple fronts pushed into a specific place by those people who are who are in control.
It's behavior modification to accept less rights. It's behavior modification to accept and acquiesce to becoming a serf, to becoming a servant, to becoming a member of a caste-based society whereby your energy and your work and your efforts are siphoned off by somebody who's higher up in the caste-based system, where the individual is now looked at as part of a collective, as an asset or a commodity that then can be subdivided or put into a management portfolio like a hedge fund to then be traded around at the whims of those in the higher echelons of the caste-based system. There is no sovereignty. There is no private property. There is no pursuit of happiness in a caste-based system. You're pretty much, you are what you are, and there's nothing you can do about it.
We've discussed this from a number of different angles. You don't use a smart device, then you're going to sacrifice functionality. Okay, fine. You don't wear a mask. They try to push us on this. You don't wear a mask, and you can't come into this business establishment. You don't get vaccinated. Maybe you won't be able to get on an airplane. You don't do this, then you can't have that. And these are all things that we have grown to accept and become dependent on in our lives. If you don't use digital currency, then who knows? We can really go on from there, because once someone has digitized all of their net worth, then they have lost a significant amount of control over it. Maybe in one sense, they've gained security over someone out and out coming and stealing it at gunpoint, but they've lost control over whoever. You were going to say, I know you'll continue that thought.
Yeah, they're basically, it's just unequitable contingencies. You're put into a position where you have to make a choice, and anything that you do, any choice you make has a contingency. If this, then that.
People doing a lot of people doing a lot of shopping online, what with the COVID thing, right? So if you don't use digital currency, then how can you even buy something digitally online? You know, it's just a slow coercion into something.
Yeah.
Use PayPal.
At this point, we've been deleveraged far enough such that contingencies are looking like, do you want to travel? Do you want a job? Do you want to be able to eat?
Yep. Do you want to be able to gain admittance to anything from a concert to a federal building because you're going to have your certificate of vaccination, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're being corralled. We're being coerced. It seems to me, this is not a doom and gloom show. We like to talk about technology, and doggone it, I like to see the hopeful side of it because it really could be great. But this, I'm just reading the cards as they are on the table, and I am slightly disturbed by what I see.
Only slightly?
Yeah, just a little.
Oh,
not much.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have what? All right. Well, I'm still thinking.
I'll finish that. We have an illegitimate president, in my opinion.
Good finish. We want to talk about a lot of things tonight. We want to talk about we are immersed in the world of cyber interaction. We want to talk, if we can, just a little bit about what you and your device can do, because it really isn't as much as you think it can to protect your own privacy. We want to talk about that. We're going to talk about the presidency. I'm going to put a clip up right now, and I think I've got it just about ready to go. And you might not be able to hear this real well. It was kind of muffled. This was this afternoon number one after Vice President after President-elect Biden assumed his position in the Oval Office, or was it the day after? I'm not sure when it was, but I'm getting this thing put up there. He was signing some executive orders, and he did mumble something under his breath, and I'm going to just get this thing out there. Hold on one second. I got so many windows open, but it's coming right up. Just bear with me. Found it. I'll share the sound. All right. Pretty well. Right. All right. So here we are. See if you can hear this. We can tell you what he said because maybe by benefit of me, driving the earbuds right into my ears, I can hear it better. But we'll play it. Here we go. It's very short. Okay, did anyone hear that as clearly as I did? I don't know what I'm signing here. I don't know what I'm signing. Did you hear it? I heard it. There's one clip. Anyway, it's just food for thought. These are just things to consider and, take to your pillow at night when you go to sleep and just ponder what goes on. We have, this is not a political show. Once again, disclaimer, this is for entertainment purposes only. But in the first 48 hours of the inauguration, the apparent inauguration of the apparent president-elect, we have a race to rejoin the World Health Organization, a race to stop the building of the Keystone Pipeline, a race to, fill in the blanks here.
Paris Climate Accord, open up immigration.
Immigration, illegal aliens. I think it's 1 million in the first volley coming through. So every one of these things is, boy, that's like they had it all ready to go. So this isn't a political show, but I'm just saying, that's background. And then this man,
I have more. There's fracking. He stopped permit issuance for fracking.
True.
Restrictions on federal land for basically all types of natural resource cultivation.
Yep.
And He is allowing China back into the American electricity grid.
I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Yeah. Especially when we move into smart cities and when we learn about power grids and what they can do with amplitude modulation with the circuits in your house. They can modulate those things as their own little independent circuits, and they emit very large, broad electric fields, and they can amplitude modulate those things, and they can do some really interesting things to you with it. But whatever. Hey, it's cool. It's China, man. It's China. It's China. It's just China.
Well, hey, we owe it to ourselves and to our children, if we have any, who are going to inherit everything that we leave behind, exactly what it is that they're going to be dealing with. And we're kind of headed in a direction a little bit like this, okay? And it may not look exactly like this, but we're headed in a clear direction in which we are, in my opinion, we are losing control over the encroachment of technology into our lives. I want to show you something. I have a little video here, and I'm going to find it. And I got it right here. Here we go. So, got a couple more clips to show you. This is just food for thought. Here we have what can be done with computer manipulation of graphics and green screens and that type of thing. And there are a few other things that we could feature, but we probably won't, regarding the backdrop behind the president in the Oval Office, or in perhaps the virtual Oval Office, in which the known configuration and footprint of the Oval Office is not what it looked like on camera. And I haven't figured that out. But these are all things that you can look at and look up on the internet, and you'll find images. We could probably even put a few links in. We have a few of the links for what we're covering anyway in our show notes underneath the video, but we could put more in there. But here we have, let me even try to get the title to show for you here. Okay, this is entitled, "Open Your Eyes to See the Digital Deception Presented as Made for TV News World Events." Now, you say it can't be done. So you'll have to watch, and I'll replay a few of these things. So it's actually really a very short clip. But you might find it interesting, and maybe you've seen some of this stuff before. Here we go. I don't know if I'm playing the sound, but I don't really need to. Okay, so right away we see right there. Okay, we're going. Okay, here you see pillars. All righty, pillars. But what's in reality, what you're really seeing is, and you saw a car going by, is you're really seeing this. That's the way that this was done. Isn't that amazing? So the people are there, they're real, but the scene is created. Look how good it looks. Look how good that looks. See the pillars, see the whole city. But we have, wait a minute. Well, let me let it go further. I won't interrupt it. TMC, can you hear me all right while I'm playing this thing?
Yeah, it's just fine. There is no audio from the video, but you sound great. So
yeah, we don't need the audio from the video. You're seeing an explosion. You're seeing people walking around, and keep watching. We see some green back there. Okay, check this out. This is a good one. Ooh, she walked into the glass thing next to the bus shelter. Ooh, did you see that? But we're going to let you see it another way now. So they do real well. We got great computers, great software. All right, this is what it really is. So that's how they did it. Is that cool or what? Pretty good. Looks pretty real. Ooh. Is that a real helicopter? Is it a real ambulance? Are they real people? These are, for the most part, all real people. All right, we got a whole scene here. Whoa, did you see that? Okay, wait for it. Okay, so we have a boat out there and a aerial craft flying across, but wait, folks. No, that's not what it is. It's a big ass green screen. We know this stuff happens, right? But they do this in when they're reporting news. Look at the pieces added in. See them added in? They added in pieces of that scene layout section by section. It is so cool. Look, isn't it something? So I'm not going to specifically say anything more about some of those shots that some people have seen from the Oval Office, but green screen. And they don't always have to be green, but green's a good color that works real well. It's just a blank screen that you utilize as the target for a stored image or a stored animated image or clip to be put over, to be overlaid on. Very cool. This looks like Vegas. You ever been to Vegas, TMC?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I went there once.
I've been there a few times.
I was amazed at I'm kind of an engineering guy. I was amazed at how much I estimate the amount of electricity that Las Vegas consumes. It's amazing. So hopefully you guys are enjoying seeing some of these simulated scenes. Very cool. So as we know that the software becomes better and better, and with faster computers, you can write software that's more demanding to exploit more of the capacity of the better computer, so that you can do even a more and more precise simulation and a seamless dovetailing with whatever the real aspects were. Wow, was it snowing or not? I missed that. Okay, there they are. Okay. Is this real snow? Green screen. So how do you like that? Very cool, right? And it certainly makes it easier to make really good entertainment coming out of Hollywood or any place else they make movies. But isn't it almost a form of, I don't know, in kind of indiscriminateness or unscrupulousness if you do too much of that when reporting news? I'm just saying, maybe it's okay. But here's the thing.
When you're reporting news.
They had this fire. They had this boat. They had the helicopter flying up over. It was back here somewhere. It was, I don't know where it was, one of these things. I mean, if you're not, here it was. So if they say, well, we know that the boat was on fire, but we're not really there on site to shoot it live. So if you create it, if you synthesize this within the the internal studios and the control rooms at a station, do you actually really know what happened there? Because if you weren't there, what do you see? It's like it kind of waters down the reality of whatever the report is. And then once you start to go down that slippery slope, or in this case, a watery slope, how far down do you go in terms of virtualizing what you want to report and hope that it's still based in some kind of fact? You know what I'm saying? It's a slope. I mean, you can make an obvious argument not to have to fly across the country with a whole crew to get, 2.5 minutes of photos of video of this event, but it's a slippery slope. You know where I'm going with that?
It's deception. It's deception, especially with the example of the media. The media postulates or projects themselves as being, fair, unbiased, honest, truthful, accounting.
Listen, fair reporting would be, okay, here I am. I'm Walter Cronkite doing the nightly news, and I want to report about this boat fire or whatever it was happening. And I say, well, we didn't have people that were on the ground, but eyewitness accounts tell us, quote, unquote. And you could do that, and that would be fair. But you don't show a manufactured picture of like an artist's interpretation of, how big the fire tugboat spraying water was and how many helicopters were flying. It's creating a movie. I think we're watching a movie, everybody. Shall we play a game? Do you want to play another game? I have another game that I can show you. Would you like to? That's not the game. I have a different game. I have this game. TMC, do you like this game?
Yeah, the only way to win is to not play.
Oh, but that's... people that don't play the game, they're a dull bunch, all right? You got to play the game. Come on. All right. Would you like to play this game with me right here? Okay. This is some photo stuff. I believe this was from a C-SPAN feed, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what this thing is right here, that little logo up there. Okay. So we're just talking about how things might or might not be what they seem. And I still go back to that point, that business about if you didn't have actual journalists with a film crew that were really there, just how much of it is ethical and just to create in software, in virtual studios on computers at the station. And it might be okay in some circumstances, but the possibility of abuse of that is huge. So here we have President-elect. I'm going to roll this, and I'd like to just call your attention to taking a look at the people and the places that they're in. I'm going to roll it. Watch this lady in pink mask. Keep an eye on that one. Okay. And I can freeze this thing. I could play it, but I really don't want to hear this. Now, I'm going to back it up. So here we are, and we see a little bit of pink here. And if we back up a little bit more, we see lady with the pink jacket. All right. Okay, she moved a little bit to her right, her left, and now she turns and looks the other way. Okay. She turned way around. She's turned about 180 to her right now. Now I'm watching to see if she's going to walk away. I don't know that she walked away. And we get through looking at this, we can play the audio so that you can see that all kind of just flows. Okay, she moved now what is apparent. I see her left shoulder right here. Okay. And since there's another person, I'm going to guess is maybe 3 to 5 feet away from Mrs. Biden, then this lady in pink has got to split the distance between that 3 to 5 feet. So she's only got 1.5 feet to 2.5 feet of personal space between Mrs. Biden and the guy behind.
Let me take share real quick. I want to show you something.
Okay. I'll leave that right the way it is. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just saw this right now. This just to give you perspective.
That's another shot. That's good.
Yeah. So when we look at this relative to the camera, angles that were taken. That needs to be taken into consideration. That being said, this doesn't explain or disexplain or unexplain anything, because we know that there was a rehearsal, right?
Yes.
And we know that there were everything about that entire space was completely controlled. Everything about it was 100% completely controlled. So
absolutely,
anyway.
So she's moved forward. If you look at the perspective from the other shot, she was in between Mrs. Biden and somebody else. And
yeah, right in between here, which means that the camera angle had to have been coming from like way
exactly.
Over here.
But you know what? There's a missing person. Where's that Asian-looking man who was
Secret Service guy?
Yeah, he was on Mrs. Biden's 9. He was on her 9 o'clock, right in front of the lady with the row of little further back. The lady with the row of gold buttons in the black top. Yeah, her, right about there. He was right about there.
That's not him, is it? No, he had dark hair, didn't he?
Yeah, much darker hair. So just for 1 second, I'll steal the share back and put the other one back up so you can see it.
All right, I've got the other Twitter. I've got that other video.
So here we have Asian guy, Mrs. Biden, Mr. Biden, that lady, and now we back up a little bit and we see right here. There's a whole different layout of people right here. They've moved all around. So you give it back to you now. Give you back the share. But the most interesting part of all is that once I play the whole clip without freeze framing it, you'll see that the lady in pink reappears just 7 seconds later, which I find.
I was looking at the.
Find it very fascinating.
I was looking at the same thing. I've got the same video up, and
so you can run that. So it would look to me like there had to be a couple of takes of it, and I'm going to say, well, all right, it was completely stage controlled, and they did a rehearsal, all that. But what we saw on TV, what we saw on the C-SPAN feed or whitehouse.gov, if that's what that was. It's like somebody did some cut and somebody did some editing here. Somebody put these pieces together, which would then seem to suggest to me that it didn't happen when we saw it happen. It would suggest to me that there was some sort of a time displacement. I'm watching what you're putting up there. Yeah.
So I'm trying. This is the angle. Camera
right, that's one of them. Yep.
But you see that there's two people that are here, and you could see this guy, and you see somebody standing behind her.
Yep.
And it's almost in direct line. It looks like there's somebody standing. Yeah, there's another set of shoulders or something right here. It looks like in a darker.
Yep.
No, this is not the right one.
Isn't that Pelosi wave? That's Pelosi, right? Of course it is. That's
Where?
her. Light blue jacket.
Her?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Isn't that Pelosi?
I don't know. It could be.
I think it is. Yep. That's Pelosi.
Yeah, and this is squirt bottle right here.
Yep. Yep. And I don't see that Asian-looking man anywhere in sight.
Nope. And he would have been right around it, like you said. Would have been right around over here.
That's right.
Let's see if that's. Let's see if we can find an Asian guy.
So I don't know whether that's a function of just the way, in this picture right there, the one that you just had, I don't know if that's a function of the way that camera optics work, that when you're zoomed in, something that's far away appears to be closer just because the whole field of view is small. There's the Asian guy right there.
Here's the lady in pink.
Lady in pink. Yep.
And you can see, man, Yeah, you totally. They do look much closer to each other.
She's got no more than 2 feet between her and Mrs. Biden and the Asian guy behind her.
It just depends on. There's no guy here.
And that's her. And so it appears that she, in the second take, she must have walked forward. For some reason, they decided to put her right up, in the immediate, almost in the immediate limelight. I don't know why.
Look, he's literally in the same line of sight right behind her.
Right.
But with that said,
now, is there anything wrong with this? Well, I guess not. But I mean, if they're going to do this, I mean, here's the deal. All right. When we watch the news, you are getting a construction of what it is that they want to give you. They're building a story, and then they're going to put it out on the broadcast waves, and that's what everybody gets to digest. And it's not disclosed to you that this was pieced together. Maybe, let's say it wasn't done for nefarious purposes, but nobody knows when they watch this that this was a constructed set of video clips, but they had to be. No other explanation for it. And I have a little bit of an ethical problem with that because of the slippery slope. How far do you go? Hey, if we can do this, why can't we virtualize a little bit more? Why can't we plug a few other figures in? Let's say that news is reporting on some sort of an international event where it was the basis or the grounds for a war being started. And let's say they plug in certain figures to make it look like they did something that is obviously and unarguably, grounds for declaring war on them. Let's say that was done. Your virtual world.
Look how far away they are from each other. See how close they are here?
Yep.
Look how far away they are. Don't they look further away? Granted, the camera angle is different.
Yes, they do. You can
see the pink outline here. So she's hiding behind Dr. Biden's empty head. And then you've got this lady over here. I'm assuming they're part of the family. And,
of course, in that one, McConnell is nowhere to be seen. McConnell, well, there's McConnell. Yeah, okay. But he's way back. So he's third. So if we just estimate, I mean, a person is maybe, a foot thick and a couple of feet wide. And so if you look from, one person to the next, it's going to be, 2-3 feet of space between people, or let's say a 36-inch diameter circle around a person would be what you might call your personal space, beyond which you're going to wind up banging into people and knock each other off balance. So people just sort of normally space themselves out about that much, right?
Okay. There is no Secret Service guy here. There is no Asian guy here. There's a guy with the red lapel thing. See the red
No, who are you talking about? Who?
This guy right here with
that
the mask on. He's got a red collar. See the red collar?
That looks like video bleed over from something else. That looks like a video artifact.
There he is. Never mind. He's here. He's just hiding behind her.
Oh, it is. Oh, you're right. It's a red scarf.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. I stand corrected, sir.
The only thing I see here is that they're too far apart. There's that lady with the buttons you were talking about, right?
Yes.
Those here.
This is a great picture you found. This gives us a whole...
I saw We Rise on Twitter.
Where's the guy with the red scarf?
I don't know.
I don't see him. He's not in this shot.
No, unless they're further back here.
So red scarfman.
Yeah, and the Asian guy was behind her. She was obstructing the view.
So on take two, they brought in red scarf guy. They brought in pink jacket lady. They moved Pelosi closer. I think they kicked McConnell off stage.
He's there. I think this is him right here.
Oh, you're right. I think it is. Yep.
Yeah, there's a mask.
So yeah, they shuffled people around a little bit.
You don't see.
So there's 2 points that we're making, which is a lot of us watched it live, what we thought was live. And then the other point is, once it's fair play to cut, paste, edit, and time displace what's going on, then how much is there really that we should be questioning about our world? And keeping in mind that with the state of the art of technology, it can really be done very, very, very precisely. I'm watching.
Yeah, I see it both ways. I'm not gonna say that it's totally fake. I see it both ways, and it has to do with the distances and angles of the cameras. That's really what needs to be established.
No, it's not totally fake by no means. These are, I would say, these are the people. It's just
how many takes were there?
Yeah, what's not revealed is how many takes there were and which one you see. And I mean, let's say that Joe Biden made some mistaken verbal thing and they edit that out. Well, I guess you can say, well, all right, we want to get it right for the American people, so we're going to have to use the first 5 seconds of take one, and then we're going to have to splice in the next 7 seconds of take two and finish it off with take three because he screwed up what he was saying 3 times or whatever.
Yeah. What else? Oh, God, do we want to show this one now?
And what is it if you're them? Put yourself in their shoes. They know that this is all, being packaged and edited and they know that this is going to be, put together and patched together and spliced for the news. And they're aware of that. So what do you think the people who are, the quote unquote leader class or ruling class that these people are, think of that in respect to all of us, the 328 million American people who they know are going to be consuming this? They say, well, we tell you what we want to tell you. We show you what we want to show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
how you doing, shock treatment? Looking out in the chat there.
It's not a good feeling to be ruled over.
Hi, Val. Yeah, shock treatment's not a bad thing once in a while. Chazo, Tron. Yep. Good to see everybody out there. We're thinking, we're looking, and we're extrapolating from this as just one example that we can find. And we've found others, over a period of a few years with a whole lot of dedicated, patriotic, investigative journalists out there, many of which we know, a whole lot of the reality about the way things are done has been uncovered. And we've seen it, and we've seen it many times. But this is an example from just 3 days ago. So.
Yeah. Check this out. I'm sure some of you have probably seen this, but for those of you that haven't, this is demonstrative of the mental faculties that now fill the
Oval Office,
fill the air and the seat in the Oval Office. Yeah. Okay, did you hear that? He said, salute the Marines.
Yeah.
He said that out loud, salute the Marines, instead of saluting the Marines. And notice the Marines do not salute him.
No.
Now, the question is, when was this taken? Was this before or after the inauguration? It looks like this was the day after it was posted on Twitter, so it's hard to say. Here you go.
Looks after. I mean,
it could be. Salute the Marines. Nobody saluted anybody.
Yeah, interpretation is he knows what's supposed to happen, and he's hoping it does happen, but then it doesn't. So that's why he said salute the Marines, and then nobody was buying.
Well, if this happens, if this event occurred after he was sworn in as president, and the Marines are not saluting,
that suggests something to me.
Indeed. And do they salute when they open the door or not? I don't know. I don't know what the stipulations are.
I remember another guy who was in office, like, for the last 4 years, blonde-haired guy. And there was no problem with salutes going back and forth during that administration. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so I don't really know what to make of this, but it was.
I just don't know. Knowing that we are dealing with something that has been put together and has been packaged to put out into the consumable media for us, and knowing that we see that not everything really quite adds up, then I don't think it's way out of line for us to use a little bit of imaginative conjecture. I don't think we're going out off the deep end. I really don't.
No. So let's show this one again. Little higher
resolution. Okay, good. Yep.
That's Kamala on the right.
Yep.
Do you see her touch the man? This guy is just being like every motion, every movement, he's being cared for.
You know why that is? Because they don't want him to get mixed up and pick the wrong folder and sign the wrong thing, or God forbid, if the folder happens to be turned 180 and it's upside down, they don't want him signing like where the header is upside down by accident.
How long is this going to go on for, man?
I don't see that this is, to use a term that's used by the Paris Climate Accord, and I don't see that this is sustainable. Just not tenable.
Good. That was good. It's not sustainable.
So it's not wrong for us to keep watching these things. I believe it or not, I have really good news for everybody. I think that there's going to be an event, like practically an event a day on a regular basis. We're going to find inconsistencies and things like that. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of that. And I think that they're cumulative. They're going to add up. And what are we going to do with all that?
Yeah. Just how much damage is going to be done in the process.
We've got a couple of we didn't have to try hard to find these things, but, a couple of examples. Well, I don't know what I'm signing. I heard that quite clearly. Well, that's the commander-in-chief. You should know what you're signing. Anyway, that's good. So we got more that we can get into. That's all fun stuff. And I've got a few other little things here. Wanted to maybe touch a little bit on the idea of, and I think, we can kind of just freeform talk about it a little bit, but digital security in the digital age. We talk about having to allow Windows to do the latest security update. Every time you turn around, it's doing a little patch. There's been a little release, a little update. So that happens on a regular basis. And we talk about virtual private networks. We talk about being able to anonymize yourself so that your personal data is not revealed, that type of thing. And it's not as easy as you might think, and it's not. A VPN is not foolproof. A fireproof is not foolproof.
Firewall.
I have a little. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Firewall.
What did I say?
Fireproof.
Oh, really? Yeah. A firewall. Thanks. A firewall is not hack proof. None of these things are totally perfect, and I, in my opinion, the level of security that we have is getting lower, not higher, despite these measures and despite these products that we try to use, despite avoiding using certain products such as Google's search engine, things like that. I think it's all kind of getting worse. I have a little video from a young guy who got a ton of views for his little video that he did. And
I agree and disagree with that statement, Indy.
Well,
the security is not getting better for us, it's getting worse, but it is improving for the people who are collecting the information, because that information is valuable and they're going to want to protect their assets. So they're going to get it from you when you have crappy security, but then
that's true.
Right. So that market, there's still a need for that. It's just whether or not, we're benefiting from it. That's all. But as it relates to our information being made available to some other entity, then I would agree with you. It's getting worse.
Well said. I agree. That's just a better statement of what I intended to want to try to say anyway. So yeah, that's good. Well, listen to this guy, and I'll play the sound, which means I have to mute my mic because that gets me all confused. So here we go. It's about 7 minutes. I haven't decided how much of it I'll play, but he's got a good perspective on things. And I want to thank him ahead for having us go and replay what he said. Here we go.
That you probably shouldn't be using a VPN at all. Well, with a few minor exceptions, of course. Let's get started. First of all, full disclosure, a lot of what I'm going to say in this video is based on this very good GitHub gist by JoePie91, in which he described why one shouldn't be using VPN services, and I agree on a lot of what he says, but I want to extend it and kind of elaborate on some points that I disagree on. The thing is, a lot of VPN providers employ so-called bait and switch tactics, which means they advertise one thing and at the end you get something completely different that you didn't sign up for. They all have those flashy websites and advertisements where they promise you ultimate privacy and absolute protection from any kind of tracking or spying or what have you, whereas actually VPNs don't really protect your privacy or anything. The only thing a VPN server does is it takes all of your web traffic and it passes it through itself so that your internet service provider or your employer doesn't see what websites exactly you visit. It only sees the VPN address, and that's basically it. Your privacy is not going to be magically improved by just using a VPN, because you still use your real IP address to log into VPN service. And even though pretty much every VPN service says that they don't log your activities, they have a no log policy, and trusting those claims is the only thing you can do, really. There's no way to check whether your provider actually logs your activities or not. There is no transparency about it, ever. Besides, if you're using VPN service to connect to your online accounts such as Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, it becomes really easy to trace your identity to a VPN service, and it kind of defeats.
Just going to stop that for a second. We could update on this based on what he just said, which is there is a pretty well filled in portrait and profile of each of us, probably in multiple locations. And even if you come in by some sort of anonymous routing of IP numbers, it wouldn't be out of the realm of the capacity of those systems to be able to match what your what the anonymous person started to immediately paint as their profile, again, by interacting on the web. So getting a match to what's already on file regardless of a VPN or not, it's going to get matched up pretty quick. If you've ever seen some of the software algorithms and programs that do face matching and fingerprint matching, they're wicked fast about how they do it, and they'll get a match anyway. So, yeah, you can spend the money for a VPN, and I'm not saying don't do it, but it's kind of a weak line of defense against protecting yourself from having other big data groups know what you did, because they'll get a very high likelihood of having ID'd you just based on the few interactions that you might have and the few choices that you select on your screen. So we'll let him go a little further.
The purpose of using VPN for privacy, to be honest. So the only thing you're accomplishing by using VPN service is hiding your web activity from one untrustworthy party, that is your internet service provider, and showing it to another one, possibly even more untrustworthy. Moreover, if a VPN service that you're using is based in the US, it is obliged by law to provide any kind of user data that it has, including your data also. And in a lot of cases, those requests are also accompanied by a so-called gag order, which means that the company is obliged to submit any kind of user information that it has, and it's also obliged to keep silent about it. Some VPN providers can also potentially work.
You can hope that would only be kicked in or employed if one was doing something illegal on the internet, because then there would be a reason for them to turn over whatever information that they had, and whether they logged it or whether they disclosed that they had a log or not. All that would be able to be, would be able to be required to be turned over. So, okay. So the working on the illegal side of things, you shouldn't do it anyway. But to think that a VPN is protecting from anything like that would also be a mistake. He goes on.
As a honeypot. They basically operate on the assumption that if you're using VPN, you probably have something to hide, or you're doing something not very legal. I mean, sure, you might be just a law-abiding, privacy-conscious citizen, but you also might be a script kiddie, or a drug dealer, or an activist, a journalist. This also gives VPN services an additional incentive to keep the data, to log the data, because who knows, maybe there's going to be something interesting in there that they could use against you, even. Also, there are some drawbacks to using VPN services that are not directly related to privacy, but are pretty inconvenient regardless. Every VPN service has a limited range of IP addresses, so in some cases, especially if you use a very well-known VPN service, your internet service provider and the websites that you're visiting will know that you use a certain VPN, which might draw attention to you. Some websites go as far as blocking all of the known VPN IP ranges, which means you should probably get used to this kind of messages because you'll be seeing them a lot. At this point, a lot of you, especially those who are more well-versed in the privacy stuff, might say, well, okay, sure, VPN services are bad, everyone knows about it, but what about
So I was just going to say, I guess maybe there's a possibility that depending on what VPN service you select, no VPN company can have an infinite number of IP addresses that they route things through, and that itself starts to paint a profile to others on the internet chain as to who they are, and okay, yeah, that one's coming in on this IP number again. Yeah, that's this VPN company. So they themselves end up developing a profile based on what pool of IP numbers that they route things through.
hosting a VPN on a cheap virtual private server? That could be better, right? If you have some basic knowledge of Linux shell and 30 minutes of free time, you can basically set up a fully working VPN server for just a fraction of costs of those VPN services. And at the first glance, this option sounds great, but there's a catch. And the catch is called OpenVZ. OpenVZ is a virtualization technology that basically 99.9% of cheap VPS providers use. Now, the thing about OpenVZ is that it's a container-based virtualization technology, which means...
So he's getting a little bit technical here, and I think that we kind of got across what we wanted to get across. Any comments?
No, other than nothing on the internet is anonymous.
Right.
Nothing.
Brave new world?
Yeah, and all you blockchain believers out there, who are gonna say, "Oh, it's not true." Okay, whatever. Believe what you want. They're not going to put anything out in circulation for us to use that isn't 100% trackable, 100% verifiable. Just because you can't verify it doesn't mean that it can't be done. That's all.
So right, exactly. So while we're trying to tie together a kind of a consistent overview of things, I have this article that I found, and this is more from the big world leader stand. This is an observation of things at the big world leader standpoint. Do you think that we want to go this far right now? That is this. All right. Think we want to go into this, or should we go in another direction, if however so briefly?
No, this is fine. This guy thoroughly nauseates me, and I think he has a good time with small animals. So,
well, there is kind of a nice puff piece that we could put up first, which is what has been put out to to the general public for our consumption, so that we feel. You know what? I gotta stop sharing the sound. Hang on a second, because we're going to be reading now. That echoing at me. Okay. Go to this, and then to this, and then to this. And all right, so this is coming from the World Economic Forum. And of course, for your benefit, the World Economic Forum is rather concerned about making sure that the supply chain can continue to function, and there won't be any shortfall in supply and demand, and you getting what you need and being able to live your life in a good way. So they have this lovely thing: 3 ways traceability can fulfill the sustainability promise. Okay. All right. Okay. I already told you what they're doing here. And there is, they have, I think they're annual, by the way. They have meetings in Davos about this, big, I don't know, very influential business kingpins go there, and political leaders as well. And they get together and they figure out how they're going to direct the world. And one of
it's the power brokers basically distributing marching orders is really what it is. It
is. And front and center, one of their big things that they have going right now is tracing and tracking. That's one of their big things. So businesses must invest in digital traceability tools to create circular supply chains. And they go into all these nice big buzzwords. Cross-sector collaboration is the key to making the digital thread of traceability standard practice. Customer satisfaction always depends on supply chains. Yet now they must do more than simply deliver the product the customers want when they want it. Today, supply chains must also deliver on a brand promise: sustainability. So they got all of this stuff that they have worked up here, and I'm not going to go through all of it. In fact, I'm scanning through right now. Operational implications. They give an example from the automobile industry.
Yeah, what this is designed to do is to automate what they call just-on-time delivery or just-in-time delivery. And there's abbreviations in different industries. They're JOT or JIT, just on time or just in time. And what it's supposed to do is it's to maximize efficiency as it relates to what you're producing, what you're warehousing, and how quickly or efficiently you move through raw materials and or stock supply materials to move your own goods and services through the supply chain, ultimately out to the consumer, whether the consumer be an industry, a production facility, manufacturing facility, all the way down to something that you would buy retail at the store.
Well, the part of it that I have a problem with is that reaches all the way down to the consumer level, because at some point they can justify needing to know what you want when you want it, and therefore they're going to need to start keeping track of you, the end user.
It's this idea of track and trace is now going from top down to and also bottom up. And that's where the anything that can be tagged and tracked will be tagged and tracked, and they will use things like your home network or your mobile device to log the movement and or activity of all items, all things, people, places, and things that can be tracked, that can be tagged.
Develop information sharing system integration standards allowing data sharing in a world where a supplier often serves multiple customers across different sectors. Keep in mind, at the very bottom and widest part of that pyramid is us, so that's what we were.
Here, it also says it means it's stop, go back. It talks about incentivizing suppliers to improve their own product tracing, potential challenge for a manufacturer if they are not on their supply, if they're not one of their suppliers' major customers. So this is where you'll see things like the carbon credit, carbon tax come and impact businesses and fault them for whatever is determined as excessive waste. If they overproduce or if they underpurchase and bottleneck the system, any deviation from what the control mechanisms dictate or appropriate, you can be penalized for through this guise or under the umbrella of having a negative impact on the carbon footprint. If you overproduce or underproduce, if you overbuy or underbuy, if you at all disrupt the speed with which inventory and supplies and materials move through the economic system. It's not just manufacturing. This is everything.
Right. Oh yeah, it's the whole thing, top to bottom.
So downtime, even if let's say you're a trucking company and you're not literally moving carbon or emitting carbon. Let's say your trucks are down or you have a bottleneck somewhere. You could theoretically be penalized because you're now causing someone else's carbon footprint to go up, and they can turn around and say, it's not my fault. It's further up in the supply chain or it's further down the supply chain. And you create this whole subterfuge of pitting your suppliers and your vendors and your customers against each other, fighting over carbon taxation.
You imagine how complicated the litigation for those of those parties who could afford to litigate.
It wouldn't matter. It is. It will be complicated and it will be designed that way. But what it's designed to do is pick who wins and who loses,
absolutely,
who gains and who doesn't, who stays in business, who grows, who goes out of business. And ultimately what this does is it fractures and balkanizes the industries at every level through the supply chain, which then further creates a need to automate the tracking, and that further creates the need to then justify and implement the tracking. And all that does is create a larger umbrella of micromanagement that reaches all the way down, ultimately to every breath that you're going to take, every poop that you take. Every bite of food that you take, they'll be watching you.
Digitally tracing products after the point of sale, all the way through the life cycle, all the way to the product's end of life through remanufacturing or recycling. So I bought something, and I'm at the end of that supply chain. I bought something, and it has been determined by whoever the evaluating board is that it is now obsolete. So somebody comes knocking on my door and says, well, it's time to recycle that product that you got because it's now obsolete and you need to buy the new one. You know, it's just one more way of just overcomplicating, invading our I can see that could happen, by the way, invading our privacy. You know, I got my old thing and it's obsolete and, you know, it's time to recycle that. You know, we need to get that and remanufacture and use those raw materials to build you a new one, which you will pay for. And we're determining that we're going to shut this device off, okay, from remote control by way of the internet. It's just not even going to work anymore. And then you have to bring it to the appropriate recycling station for remanufacture. Wow. What a complicated, we're just heading into enough complexity that it makes my brain explode. Anyway, I just thought, so this is their promo piece. And we're able to easily pick into this. And now we go to another look at same thing. This comes from actually a little known publication called sociable.com. And I actually just ran across this today. Now we take a look at the technocracy, all right, and the Great Reset. And let me just do a little reading here. And now this is taking us on a little bit of a different angle, but I think you might find it interesting. And I will read. In the face of a global pandemic, an unelected body of global bureaucrats based in Davos, Switzerland, has asked the world to trust its vision of a technocratic Great Reset, knowing full well that the public would never go for such a request had it not been for the golden opportunity they'd all been waiting for. Gee, what's that? Okay, when the head of the World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab, announced in June, now is time for the Great Reset, it wasn't the first time he called for that. He called the World Economic Forum to start the Great Reset 5 years ago. And I'm not going to play this video. I think we did play. Did you play this? Somebody played this. I don't want to hear him.
I played a video of at one point of Klaus on that other show I do, but it was...
So I'll go on. The Great Reset agenda was already in place long before the coronavirus pandemic, and the World Economic Forum was just waiting for a crisis to exploit it. Prior to this year, implementing worldwide lockdowns that would destroy businesses or wreck the economy and leave people destitute and stripped of constitutional rights while trying to enact invasive contact tracing, immunity passports, and otherwise massive bioelectronic surveillance apparatus would never have been accepted by the citizens of a free society. Comments?
Yeah, well, it's won't be long before people finally realize that people are also on the network. People are also on the internet. People also are a primary objective of being tracked in real time. So down to every impulse. Every impulse. What is an impulse?
Is it clear that advanced technology, high-powered technology, is being woven into and utilized and weaponized inside of this sociological migration or socioeconomic experiment, which I don't even think is an experiment anymore. It's a plan. It's a multi-step plan. So, okay. All right. This so-called Great Reset is an old ideology touted for decades by globalists like Henry Kissinger, who opined in 2014, never before has a new world order had to be assembled from so many different perceptions or on so global a scale. The reset is the proposed mechanism for setting in motion a new global order. But it wouldn't be possible to bring forth such a bold plan without a global crisis, be it manufactured or of an unfortunate happenstance, a crisis which shocks society to its core. We've seen a couple of pretty shocking things in the recent past. 2020, in my mind, goes down as a year of some shocking things that happened that have shaken society to its core. The pandemic represents a rare but narrow window of opportunity to reflect, reimagine, reset, and I'm going to say reconstruct our world to create a healthier, more equitable, and more prosperous future. And I'll go off on that, to create and reshape that future of society to a certain group of people's concept of what it should be. And that isn't really representative of
exactly
us.
The opposite. So if you go back up, let's pick that apart. Healthier, no. Masks don't necessarily promote health. They increase the pathogenic load in your lungs and in your skin. They lead to bacterial infections, other types of viral infections,
pneumonia, bacteria,
skin
all that.
Disorders, all of it. More equitable? Absolutely not.
not.
You have closure of the middle class, you have poverty rising, you have starvation rising, and all of that energy has now been transferred to a handful of digital-based companies.
And you get a certain amount of collateral population reduction because of this added strain on the overall psychological and physical health of the world's population.
It's an energy transfer. The loss of life is like the excrement.
Actually, it is.
It is the excrement of the restriction of the economic machine. So when food isn't shipped around anymore, those that can't afford it don't get it. Those that can afford it now have to pay more for it. But those that could barely afford it beforehand now just don't get it. They starve and die. It is a byproduct. It is the excrement of this designed, more equitable distribution of wealth and resources. The prosperous future goes hand in hand with that equitability. The prosperous future is set up for those companies and those people and those entities that have been selected to thrive, to prosper through this process of deleveraging everybody else and transferring that energy into the hands of a very few.
You know what the scary thing is? It's shocking, but from their vantage point, there are so few of us that are actually necessary. All right, with robotic manufacturing, with large-scale farming, agribusiness, if it's even needed, you don't need people for a whole lot of this stuff. Becoming so expendable. The middle class is all but gone. Okay, we're becoming so expendable, and we've always been a really good target in the crosshairs because the middle class is not a dependent class. They're educated well enough that they can take care of themselves. They have an ethical and moral compass, and you can't. The middle class has usually had a pretty good bullshit meter, so they're people that can think for themselves, and that makes them a threat to the next class up, which is the upper class, the ruling class. And so, they really needed to, thin the ranks of the middle class. That's a problem group, but they're not so necessary. And in the scheme of things as it seems to be envisioned, that world of the future does not need, or from their vantage point, justify the need for a whole lot of people. And that's us.
Yeah, their faith is in AI. Their faith is in the technology that has been manifest. That's where their faith is. It's not in people. So there's going to be this balance of phasing out people, but leaving enough around and training them just enough to continue to grow the technology and the AI. And as that becomes more and more effective and self-regenerating, self-developing, self-creating AI, robotics, all of that technology, then more and more and more people will go away. That's the plan.
Little set of bullet points here. So this is a pretty long article. It might even be interesting to go through it and discuss point by point, but their bullet points are invasive surveillance technologies to be employed, okay? Rebranding and pushing the Great Reset idea in 2020 and beyond, because we're in 2021 now, and how the Davos crowd is trying to sell it and package it. Who will be asked to give up their privacy for the common good? A lot of people. When humans
no one is being asked because
it's just being done.
Yeah, Apple and Google have merged their networks in order to partner with contact tracing, and this stuff has been pushed through forced updates on mobile devices and connected devices. So no one's being asked. That's bullshit.
Right. Okay, humans are just about hackable now. And then lastly, I guess this author attempts to close this article on a positive note, where you have the power to choose. I think we got to go through. You want to go bit by bit through this thing? You want to take turns going through it and talking about it? I think it might be good for us.
Yeah, if you want, it's fine.
All right. Well, all right. With the arrival of the coronavirus pandemic, the World Economic Forum has the perfect excuse to enact its vision for steering society, for your own good, towards that invasiveness of contact tracing, intrusiveness, technocratic future in the name of serving the common good. Unelected architects envision a utopian world of inclusivity, equality, sustainability. I'm cringing at every word, that will require trust in emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, 5G, blockchain, and robotics. And we could deviate off about blockchain a little bit, but we won't. And robotics, in order to usher in the golden dawn. Now, I wish I could get this to be big enough that everybody could see it. Let's just say it's a big pizza pie diagram. And I'm picking a place to start here. Shaping the economic recovery, redesigning social contracts, skills, and jobs. And in a positive sense, it's normal for us to recreate and reconstruct what our social contracts are and our skills and our jobs. But that should be something that we do. That should be something that evolves naturally as a result of the general need of the general population, not something that is pushed, that is conceived and pushed down at us from somewhere else. Go on. Restoring the health of the environment, developing sustainable business models. Okay. Harnessing the fourth industrial revolution. I'm skipping around.
Yeah. There's a couple things on the outer fringes that I hope we can point out, because those all of those.
Try to enlarge it.
Yeah, the larger fonts are just big arrow ideas, and the rest of it, it's unfortunate that the right side's cut off. But you have corporate governance, you have the future of mobility, you have justice and the law.
Yep, I'm tracking.
Mm-hmm. You've got 3D printing, air pollution, the future of food, and public finance and social protection. Is there any way you can move that image over to the right so that we can see what the...
It won't move. It won't, on this particular page, it won't move.
Can you send me the link?
Yeah.
Because...
Please stand by.
The devil is in the details, as they say. Or you send it to me in Discord?
Zoom.
Okay, very good.
It's in your Zoom.
Here we go.
Okay, so circular economy, corporate governance, plastics, and plastics of all things. That's got to be one of the worst environmental creations I've ever seen. Next to indiscriminate release of low-level radiation. 3D printing, natural resource environment and natural resource security.
Where are you at on this thing? I took it from you.
I am at 8:30 a.m. on the clock. I was going around. You can go anywhere you want. I'm at just below 3D printing.
Yeah, I got you.
Air pollution, advanced manufacturing and production, future of food. Okay. Global risks.
Agile governance. Agile seems to be a common theme.
What does that even mean?
Agile. What it means is if you're gonna project a new idea, if you have a new idea or a new process,
right?
What you do is that you implement that somewhere, and you see how it goes. And if it's successful, then you scale it up a little bit. and you make the minor changes, and you learn each time you do this, and you scale and you scale and you scale. So if you fail, if it doesn't work out, you don't have a large amount of deployment. You don't have a lot of costs that are associated with that. And so what that offers you the ability to do is to move to other ideas, to take your resources, your investments, whatever you want to call it, and move them around more strategically rather than investing in a massive amount of initial costs for whatever infrastructure is needed to implement a project. Whether it be people or raw materials or whatever, all of those things have some type of a cost, and you can factor that as an opportunity cost.
That's good. I like that if it has to do with manufacturing or the governance of some sort of a manufacturing operation. I'm not so sure that governance doesn't also bleed over into, once again, the whole social sphere.
Well, they've done a good job separating a lot of these things. So where the philosophical discussions will be had in order to understand how these things will be implemented is to take some of these outside things like agile governance and apply it to corporate governance, and then see how those things are able to create things like a circular economy, and then do things like take the corporate governance with this idea of being agile, right? And this whole ecosystem of being circular, to then look at things like plastics in the environment and how we can make things with 3D printing and environment and natural resource security.
Take a look over at 3:30 on the clock, global governance. It's just above COVID-19. So then you've got global governance for the sake of once again, the common good. That's going to be a recurring theme there.
So you have all of these. Every one of these has a little page, right? And they've got links, or they've got a network node path to one of these other circles in here that are the core fundamentals that then link to everything else. And so you have governance all around the pie here, instead of all listed out in a nice list of these are all the different types of governance. It would look really bad to see global governance, to see agile governance, and then to see corporate governance all right next to each other, because it'd be very easy to see, wait a minute, global governance means that you have a universal, homogenized form of implementing social controls that maybe could be pushed through corporations that then allow for things to change on dime, laws that make things illegal that yesterday may have been legal. So all of a sudden you're now guilty in the future of something you're doing today.
A lot of categories here are triggering me. All right.
Oh, yeah.
Financial and monetary systems. There was another one. Oh, public finance and social protection. That's at 5 p.m. Yep. Cities and urbanization, smart cities. Don't forget that. Leadership, climate change. Climate change? Are we still really worried about climate change? Guys, really? I mean, come on. Can we just deviate off just a little bit on climate change? Just for a second. I don't put up any graphics on this. There have been times, and it's been measured through all sorts of laboratory tests, that the level of carbon dioxide, this is the whole carbon credit thing, was literally 4 times as much as it is today. 4 times as much. And the planet it was warmer, but the planet was erupting with life all over the place. We had some of the biggest reptiles ever in history and some of the biggest plants ever. The planet was teeming with life. There was plenty of rain, plenty of life, plenty of dinosaur poop, and plenty of trees. 4 times as much carbon dioxide. Our CO2 is somewhere around 400 parts per million right now. It was pushing 2,000 parts per million many millennia ago. The planet survived. Just as an interesting side point, I've just gone off on this little tangent on carbon here. Just as an interesting side point, below approximately 185 parts per million, plants die. They don't get enough carbon dioxide to stay alive. And when plants die, the food chain collapses. And that's all I wanted to say about that. And we're at about 400 right now. Okay, that was my little digression. Back to this. don't even know what.
Digital economy and new value creation. Artificial intelligence, robotics, fourth industrial revolution, blockchain, drones, a digital ID, 5G, internet governance.
Internet governance. There's another. The ocean. What are we going to be doing with the ocean now? We got to manage the ocean.
Yeah. Manage. That's the problem, isn't it? The problem is management.
Management, exactly.
Management is the problem. Management needs to go. Period.
This globe and the people on it and the animals on it have somehow been able to manage themselves to the point of surviving all these thousands and thousands of years to bring us to today. All right, agriculture, plants, wild plants.
You could argue that the majority of the organisms on this planet have been surviving management for these thousands of years.
Yeah, you could.
Yeah, there's this noble, philanthropic, pukey, shitty ideology that we're stewards and that we need to equitably manage everything that is life on this planet.
But some are so egotistically and megalomaniacally driven to think that they need to manage things. You know, we've got a whole lot of species that are going extinct every year now. Now, it might or might not be a natural process. I don't really know, but I can say that we've tagged some of them directly to cause and effect with manufactured synthetic chemicals. Some of it is definite. One good example of that is bees pollinating crops on farms. Bees getting poisoned by genetically modified seeds and pesticides. We've pretty well got that one. And you know what? They survived for millennia, didn't they?
Yeah.
So I don't know. We've got a whole lot that we can go. Let's see what else. Yeah, just that chart alone. I think we should look for another version of that has the links active so that we can really dig down into each one of them. But we won't be able to do that today. We got. Let's go a little bit further with this. We got 26 minutes left before we're done.
All right. You want to keep with this article or move on?
Yeah. What do you want? I'm interested in this myself.
Yeah, that's fine. So the Great Reset will require trust in invasive surveillance tech. World Economic Forum promotes health passports and contact tracing. Invasive surveillance technology. Invasive. In order to bring about a Great Reset, will require trust in the technology to be more specific. The World Economic Forum would like to have greater trust in crisis-relevant tech, which includes developing digital health passports, contact tracing under a new form of internet governance. Use of digital technology during the COVID-19 crisis offers clear lessons. Target mistrust broadly to enable specific crisis-relevant tech. Daniel Dorbigowski, World Economic. Who gives a shit? The Great Reset will require new institutions and business models and new digital technologies to build them, wrote the WOOF, head corporate governance and trust, Daniel, who gives a fuck. In a blog post, the necessary collaboration, however, is only possible if we solve the digital trust problem.
Yeah. And you know what?
Digital trust problem will fix everything.
You know what? This is what this, and of course, I say, remember, this is for entertainment purposes only. But this is what this channel pits ourselves directly against, is those who would want you to trust technology more, and people like us and all of the people who are out there with us participating in the conversation who know that we should trust technology a little bit less.
Well, I'll rephrase that. It is the push to blindly trust how the technology is explained to us.
Yep.
Because that's the problem. It is this watered down, narrow view of technology. You roll out a technology and you stick to the script as it relates to what it is the technology can do and what it's for and what it will be exclusive, how it will be exclusively applied. And anything outside of that, it either doesn't exist, it's not possible, or it's not true. And it's that is a paradigm nightmare.
Sure is.
Yeah. It's the blind trust of the technology. And that's exactly what they're talking about. They have to solve the digital trust problem. And what we're going through right now, this transformation, is this forced infusion of digital into every aspect of our lives, including our bodies.
Yep.
That's what this pressure, this period of pressure is all about. They're putting society under pressure and then introducing digital so that pressure will allow for a rapid, thorough, even infusion into
right at your genetic level, dude.
All the way down to everything. So
did you see that recent thing? I don't know if it was recent, but I recently saw it. Bill Gates talking, and he's normalizing RNA vaccines. And he's saying, and wow, we've got a big job. We've got to get this RNA vaccine to 7 billion people. Wow. And he goes into detail about how, well, when we give you the RNA vaccine, we bring new code. And, you know, he's a computer guy, right? So he's talking code. We bring new code into your body's genome. Yeah. Well, wait a minute. I mean, just because someone says it and they can do it doesn't mean that it needs to be done, should be done, or that it is good. That's recent. So this is at all levels, many, many different levels. I marvel at how well coordinated these people are. They amaze me and they scare the crap out of me.
They're really not. They're really not. They're so greedy and backstabbing that it takes ungodly amounts of resources, a whole lot of secrecy, and way too much time to roll this stuff out. The only benefit they have is that there's so many people are corrupted and led around by the nose by money and sex and other forms of compromise that they can create a giant tidal wave that becomes a juggernaut to move an agenda forward. So even if they hemorrhage money, resources, people, and even power, even if they hemorrhage all those things, they will still make progress on their objectives. They're not well coordinated. They're stupid as fuck, in my view.
I think that they have a very, very well woven network of people who have been and they've been they've been indoctrinated into this, some of them generationally too, in which they are at the levers of control and power. And you know what? They're in the position. It's hard to displace them from that position because they've worked their way into it for so long and they have such a well-woven network. They don't even need to talk with each other to know what point of view, what agenda that they're all coming from. And when
that's not why it's hard to displace them, in my opinion, Indy.
But say again?
That's not the reason why it's hard to displace them. The reason why it's hard to displace them is because people in general are weak and spineless and are not willing to do what is necessary to rip these people out of their positions of power and hold them accountable and then see them through the judicial process up to and including punishment.
I got a different view. You know what? People are actually so good and so trusting and so kind. And most people are actually generally good-willed, and they trust where they shouldn't trust, and they give when they should not give, all right? And they believe when they should not believe, when they're being lied to. That's what I think it is. I don't think, you could say maybe that's stupid. You could say lazy, stupid. I don't know. I say naive, kind, God-loving, God-fearing people, okay, that want to be humble, and they want to go along and they don't want to create chaos and strife. And you know what? sometimes that's not going to work. Sometimes it's not going to work. I think we have some things to learn, and we've got to find the way to thread the eye of that needle of remaining true to ethical and moral values, yet at the same time not standing for all of the stuff that you just blasted out. That's my view.
Yeah. So according to
we should question. We have the right to question. We should question things. Yes, good comment out there. And then another comment. A want to believe in people, then they let you down. Yeah, but this is the thing. You know, one strike, they're out. Two strikes, they're out. Okay, I mean, three strikes, they're out. How many times are we going to believe people that lie to us? They do it blatantly in our face. They steal from us. They rob us. They make us sick. They hide knowledge and technology from us. Guys, wait a minute. This is the disclaimer. This show is for entertainment purposes only. We hope that you're enjoying it. And if you're curious and if you're like-minded, we encourage you to join the discussion. Okay, back to what we were just talking about.
The mechanisms of enforcement and the mechanisms of adjudication, all the mechanisms of accountability have been compromised.
Yes.
They have been commandeered by the same people that are now
they're unapproachable,
prosecuting these types of infringements on personal liberty.
We don't even know what door to knock on. They're unapproachable. They're invisible. They're like a big monolith. It's like a blank thing we're looking at. Where do we start? Where do we go? We don't even know where to go anymore.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, a million people show up and march to the Capitol to have their wishes heard and seen. What is it going to take, people? What's it going to take?
Not much time left. It's all being moved up into the satellite cloud now. So it's not going to be much longer before there's nothing that can be done.
Let's read a little bit more of this. We still got a few minutes. Want to use them? I'm going to use some minutes. Where do we want it? Where are we here?
We're at, according to dog shit here, the use of digital technology during the COVID-19 crisis offers clear lessons.
Here we go.
One of those being target mistrust broadly to enable specific crisis-relevant tech.
The WEF openly supports the development of so-called crisis-relevant tech as evidenced by its backing the development of health passports, which act as digital records of your health status to determine whether or not you are free to travel. Free to travel, or even go outside. Oh, okay. I'm happy now. Earlier this year, the WEF announced it's supporting the development and launch of Common Pass. Oh, Common Pass. Had you heard of that yet? Common Pass? That term? I hadn't.
No, it's just...
Develop and launch a standard global model to enable people to securely document and present their COVID-19 status. Guys, okay, TMC, what's your COVID-19 status today? Do you have a COVID-19 status?
Yeah, it's one finger and it's in the middle of the rest of them.
Okay. Can you we need outside verification of that. We need to
That's take fine. I'll take it out of my nose and shove it in your eye.
Oh, no, man. Oh, gosh. You know, we try to keep it light, but we just can't. I swear, we would love to just be happy and laughing and all.
We're looking at this article and what,
jokes.
Yesterday, the WHO finally comes out, 2 days after, Brainless has now been inaugurated. 2 days later, WHO comes out and says, oh, the PCR tests aren't really accurate. Oh, Fauci. Wait a minute. And we've COVID's, we've rounded the turn and COVID's plateauing and
plateaued.
Getting it under control. But all of these policies and this whole entire push will continue. It will continue.
Absolutely.
And there hasn't been a single thing that has changed as it relates to managing this quote unquote pandemic. None of these implementations had anything to do with the public reporting of getting our arms wrapped around this situation globally. All you've had is policy change from organizations that are appointed. They're not even elected at this point. They are appointed. They are technocratic rulers that have now said, we've achieved an objective. We've reached our waypoint. We can now change our public policy so that we can then begin to implement the next phase of this strategy. Now that we have the corporate governance behind us, now that they have caught up with what they need to do with their necessary implementations, with how they interface internally and how they interface and deal with the public externally, we are being walked systematically into enslavement.
Right down the corridor of enslavement. Exactly, precisely. This is a completely contrived system in which it is, and it's been working so well. Okay, let's look at reality here. All right. Viruses have been around for a long time. They are part of the natural world. We have something, thanks Heartland, which is called an immune system. All right. And that is, that it's all part of a balanced picture. This whole thing has been designed, developed artificially, synthetically by a group of people thinking how they could move us down that corridor that you're talking about, okay? You got people wearing masks that are barely effective. You got a vaccination. The flu is gone. Forget about the flu. Now it's all COVID. What's your COVID? We need to substantiate your COVID-19 status. Guys, I feel like I have been teleported to insane world, okay? I'm serious.
No, man, it's just called Earth today.
It's off its rocker. Let's read a little more.
All right.
Okay, Common Pass. Yes. Yeah. Did you test negative for COVID-19? Okay. The Davos, in supporting both Common Pass and COVID Pass, the Davos elite have made it clear that they want crisis-relevant tech. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit further now. Okay. How about this? Ask yourself, would the idea be being forced to electronically prove your current health status in order to travel, leave your home, have been acceptable just 10 months ago? No, there's been such a fast transformation. Hi, light switch, how you doing? There's been such a fast transformation out there. I can't believe how fast they've done it. And how and why did it work so fast? Because the fear campaign was so effective. That's how it worked so fast. Because you know what? When you get people afraid, guess what? Fear is an emotion. And emotion takes charge over logic. And it paralyzes the rational process. And people just say,
what was it that created the fear?
I forgot. I was afraid. I can't remember. What
was it that actually created the fear?
Fear.
I'll start. I can say that one of the primary components in my view that created the fear, one of the primary components was forcing people away from work and having their bank accounts restricted, having their money supply restricted. That creates a level of stress that can then be diverted and redirected, trying to look for a reason or a cause or a purpose because you're undergoing a fundamental physiological response to having your resources cut out from underneath you and seeing it happen to everybody you know.
That's right. You feel it in your gut.
Has nothing to do with a fucking virus, man.
You feel it in your gut. You say, oh my God, how am I going to pay the bills this month? I got to feed the kids. My business might go under. That's fear. And then they say, anything we have to do, let's do it. Yeah, sure. I don't care. I'll get vaccinated. I'll have you stick that 16-inch long thing up my nose. Yes, sure. I'll wear a mask. I don't care. Just make it go away because it's all fear. And people get desperate.
Here's the other ironic part. The very thing that people should have been doing
we have so much control.
The very thing that people should be doing to peaceably retake their countries is being done to them. It's being done to them anyway. They are being restricted. They are having to make sacrifices. They are being forced into a lower standard of living. They're being forced to do the very things they should have done to get themselves into a position to have a better life for them and their offspring. So the very same actions that need to be done in order to obtain freedom and liberty are in fact being done, but instead are imposing slavery, impoverishment, and death.
From another source. Right. That's right. And what's the difference? It's being done we're doing the same things but it's now being pushed at us. We have it's almost hard for me to keep perspective on this, but we have the power to just not comply. But we're going to lose that real soon. Real soon.
Yeah.
I mean, very soon.
Yeah, if you have a brain, if you have a brain at this point, you're a domestic terrorist.
You're already a threat to that system. Yeah. We are literally months away from not being able to recover from this track that we've gone down. Okay. This show is for entertainment purposes only. We hope you're enjoying yourselves tonight. We still have 8 minutes left. Okay. COVID presents a shrinking golden opportunity. The Great Reset is not a response to the coronavirus. And he goes historical here. We have a golden opportunity to seize something good from this crisis. Its unprecedented shock waves may well make people more receptive to big visions of change, the prince told the World Economic Foundation. Okay. Would the idea of being forced to electronically prove your health status been acceptable 10 months ago? No. And now I'm going to move right beyond Prince Charles. I'm going down to the lure of utopia, because we don't have much time.
Share, Andy?
Oh, I don't. Oh, you know what? I'll tell you what. Let's use ESP. Why don't you figure out where we should go for just a little bit more? We've only got 7 minutes. And so you keep the share up, pick the spot, and we'll both read it.
No, that's fine. The lure of utopia seems good.
Okay,
so
fine.
There.
All right, here we go. Prior to this year, implementing worldwide lockdowns that destroy business, wreck economy, and leave people destitute and stripped of their constitutional rights while trying to enact invasive tracing, immunity passports, and bioelectronic surveillance apparatus would never have been acceptable to citizens of a free society. Okay, the narrow window. And that's the narrow window of the golden opportunity to take advantage of it. Never let a good crisis go to waste. Okay. Oh, but wow. The Davos Club fears that the window may be closing forever. The World Economic Forum admits in its own contact tracing governance framework that contact tracing apps can be a powerful weapon against the virus, but they can also be tools for state surveillance. Well, don't you think? Of course, that automatically goes with it. It's built right in. Yet, the WF believes people should balance certain freedoms to serve the common good. Okay. Well, this is where I have an issue, because it is a complete fallacy to talk about COVID-19 as something that threatens the common good if it's not controlled by the methods that have been pushed at us, such as masks, vaccination, and all that stuff. There are other things that we've covered, actually wasn't covered on this channel, but other methods that can be used, let's say, that help to significantly mitigate the risk of death from coronavirus, which has many, many different types and has been around for thousands of years. Do you have anything to say? Do you want to go on and read more? Or
yeah, we can read more. If I say anything, it's going to be loud and obnoxious at this point, because this stuff is. We're literally entertaining this the information that is the downfall of our civilization, of the human civilization. That is what this whole endeavor is about, is to deconstruct and implode human civilization, and then on its ashes
plug us into another framework, and they're plugging us into it. We've been being plugged into it for very fast-tracked in the last year or two. Very fast-tracked.
Yeah. So anyway, the World Economic Forum believes that people should balance certain freedoms to serve the common good. Well, that's great for your opinion, but whatever. You can label yourself as speaking on behalf of the world, but you don't speak for me. Klaus Schwab and dog shit, whatever that guy's name was up above.
It was Daglaboxius.
Shit. It's a good global vision without a clear end, and it's one that flies in the face of constitutional republics that protect certain unalienable rights. So here it is.
That's it right there.
Pitting these ideologies against constitutional republics in order to subvert and overtake your unalienable rights given to you by God.
Dude, you know why it doesn't have a clear end? It actually has a clear end. But you know what?
It's called death.
Yeah, we're not supposed to see it because you know what? You wouldn't want to see that end, and you would never submit or go along with it if you could see where it ends. And I think we see where it ends. And you just, that's one of, that's a permanent option.
It's death. The end is death.
Yeah.
It is. It is for everybody, but the question is, how do we meet that end?
I want to incorporate into the last minute or two, if it's okay with you, then you're going to sign us out, and I'm not going to say another word after that. A couple of comments from out in the chat. We have a person who's got a really good constitutional background as well as a spiritual background. I'm going to read a few things that he said. We, the people, need to file massive lawsuits on all levels of government. They have violated the Constitution. They're violating civil rights, etc. Some people refuse the truth. And this individual, I wish that my fellow Americans would actually read our founding documents. We, the people, can and have full authority of law to revoke our consent at any time. We, the people, are the bosses, not them. And the show is for entertainment purposes only. TMC, take us out. I'm exhausted.
We're just here for entertainment, so it's kind of an abstract show today. I enjoyed it, Indy, so thanks for that.
Thank you.
But curious to see what the next 6 months is going to hold. If they're gonna scale down coronavirus, that just means that something else a little catchier, a little deadlier, a little more potent just might be around the corner. Mutation, COVID-21, or some other thing, SARS, MERS, maybe we'll get another kind of Ebola,
Yep, another version of that.
Everybody's trained, all the software's in place, they've been able to mobilize the medical staff. They're all really good dancers now. They're probably excellent fuck buddies, but good night, folks.
Wait a minute. We need another vector, though. I know what. What about the super tick? Right? We got ticks. They've got what's those super hornets, those killer. What about super ticks? They're faster. They can go and they can cloak themselves.
They don't need it, man. There'll be enough people inoculated with an mRNA nanoglobule that will have antibody strains of up to 12 or more different variations of a coronavirus, which are just different messenger RNA packets that get stored in your body that can then be remotely activated on demand with the new systems they're putting online. So the delayed trigger detonator switches that then make people actual bioweapons deployed courtesy of the World Economic Forum and people like Bill Gates. It's already been done. We're going through the landmine laying process that is the inoculation Project Warp Speed mindfuck. That's happening right now.
Genetic recoding by way of things like who knows what, but it's done at the genetic level. It's modification of our genomes, can be delivered by various RNA vectors, one of which might be a vaccination. Anyway, I'm trying to keep it to 2 hours in case we have to do anything else with the show. I want to thank everybody for being here. TMC, wrap us up. I'm running the close.
Good night. Take your shots. Just wait for the detonation, but don't forget, take your shots. Be a good little global world economic citizen. Dog shit will love you. Good night.